Good morning, Tribe Church. In the spirit of brutal honesty, I was really watching that bumper closely, and I got a little seasick watching it. So don't stare too closely into the bumper video this morning. No, just me. Okay, great. Welcome to Give Light Sunday. It is my joy and honor to get to speak to you today. It's my prayer that you see the things that God put on my heart this week, and just that you're blessed by our service today. So we're going to start off with the book of Genesis, Genesis 1 through 5. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. God saw that the light was good, and there was evening, and there was morning the first day. He saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. And that sometimes makes us think that the darkness was bad. And I think because of this, we tend to associate dark with evil, and then we equate light with good and darkness with the bad things. And that would be a concerning way to look at things for your whole life if we didn't know how plants work, how crops need a cycle of light and darkness to grow, or that before a tiny seed can become an oak tree, it first has to be planted in total darkness. It would be concerning if we didn't know how important sleep was for our bodies. Our bodies process information and they grow while we're asleep, and we sleep best, statistically, in cool, dark spaces. God separated the light from the dark. It was literally the first thing he did. But the writers in Genesis wanted us to know for sure that there was morning and there was evening the first day, because the darkness came back. God declares his glory in the light, but before he can do that, he has to form new life in the dark. My youngest daughter, Bailey, was born at 9:30 in the morning. And this was back in the olden days when people visited you in the hospital, and by people, I mean everyone you'd ever met. All day long, people kept asking us, "What color are her eyes? What color are her eyes?" And we kept saying, we don't know, because she hasn't opened them yet. Hours and hours went by, and she still hadn't opened her eyes. And this was a really different experience with us with our second child. Our first son, Jackson, was born in a hurry with his eyes bright and wild. They were open wide from the first seconds of his birth. But Bailey took her time. To her, darkness was her safety. It was all she had known in my womb. And the light was what was bright and harsh. Her little eyes weren't ready for it. They are often still not ready for it early in the morning. She gets that from her mother. Eventually, Bailey did open her eyes. It was about 9:30 at night. It was a full 12 hours after she was born. And ironically, it was after the sun had gone down for the day and the lights in the hospital had lowered and the people had left. It was just me, her, and Matt. When the world was quiet again, Bailey opened her eyes for the very first time. In this season, as we embrace the fullness of light, I don't want us to forget the gift of darkness. Light is going to do what light does. It warms and it fills and it lifts. It's important and it's useful. And the literal light from the sun is not without its flaws. The sun bleaches and makes brittle. The sun can cause our skin to burn. And so maybe back when God separated the light from the dark, maybe it wasn't a metaphor for good and evil. Maybe it was the creation of a cycle of day and night and of work and rest. Because darkness is not without its gifts. I've read a lot of articles about this, and they say that when God separated the darkness from the light and he declared the light good, that he's clearly stating that the darkness is bad, that light and dark cannot exist in the same place, and that is true. But that doesn't necessarily mean that darkness can only represent evil. Maybe you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, but that's kind of what I've always been taught, and that's kind of how I've always thought about it. But again, as I've reflected on this week and over the last long time, I think maybe there was more to it than that. Because the same scripture that specifically says that there was evening and there was morning the first day, not the bright light of midday or the complete blackness of midnight, but the soft mix of light and dark that comes at sunrise and sunset. I think as Jesus followers, we're trained to think, this is dark, this must be bad, I need to run away from it. But what if we shifted that thinking to, this is dark, and I need to let darkness do what darkness does. I need to let it cover and protect and grow. I need to let it give me the space to rest, retreat, repair, and restore. The psalmist David writes in Psalm 139, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light will become night around me. Even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like day, for darkness is as light to you. And so I want you to remember this week that darkness isn't dark to God. Our darkness isn't dark to God. He can see right through it as clear as day, and we know that for sure because the very next verses show exactly what can happen in the dark. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. It's in the darkness of a womb that a baby is formed. It's in darkness that seeds grow into plants. It's in darkness that we sleep and grow and heal. And it's in the darkness that we wait in anticipation for the good things that are to come. I always forget how dark it is in December. But as of this morning, we are on the other side of the longest night of the year. Last night, the sun set at 5:24 p.m., and the sun rose this morning at 8:03 a.m. That's 14 hours and 39 minutes of total darkness. 879 minutes without light. 52,740 seconds, the longest night of the year. Today, the sun will set at 5:25 p.m. It's just one more minute of light. But for the first time in 184 days, we will have more light today than we had yesterday. Even if it's just one more minute, those extra 60 seconds, that tiny little minute of light, it represents so much more than it actually is. It represents that we are on the other side of losing daylight every single day. It represents that we are on the upswing of the year. And yeah, it does happen every year in exactly the same way, but that doesn't make it any less important, doesn't make it any less remarkable, doesn't keep us from breathing a sigh of relief that we made it through the longest, darkest night and are headed towards a time with more light. And that right there, that is exactly what Give Light is. Give Light is one more minute of light that we get to give to a small group of people in the town of Plainfield. It's 1 minute of hope. And those of you who are on the other side of a dark season in your life, you know how much 1 minute of hope can help. For those of you who are in a dark season, who feel lost and broken, what would it look like if you just sat with hope for 1 minute? Hope is not dreaming of a future where bad things never happen. Hope is not winning the lottery, and it's not controlling all of the outcomes so that you get exactly what you want. Hope is a feeling of trust. Trust that somehow it's all going to be okay. Trust that somehow it's all going to work out. Trust that it's all building towards something. Trust that God had a plan all along. And sometimes the only amount of hope we can find is just that one little minute. So even if it's just for 1 minute, would you hold that hope in your heart this morning? Even if it's just 1 minute, wouldn't you accept that light is coming? Can you hold on to hope for just 1 minute? And I wanted us to be able to experience a full minute of hope, just so we can kind of practice. We can get to feel what that feels like. And so I made a 1 minute video so that you can practice holding space for hope. Today we have more daylight than we did yesterday. And tomorrow we'll have more than we had today, and the day after that, and the day after that. And before long, it'll be light outside at 6 p.m., and then 7 p.m., and then 8 p.m., and then you'll all start complaining about how long it's light. But for today, we get 1 minute of light, one more minute of light. And that's enough, because that one little minute of light, that's what we give when we give light, when we do our give light. It's one little minute of light, one little burst of hope that maybe might be enough to get someone through to the next season, to say, hey, God loves you. Hey, a group of people who don't know you love you. I had picked out those verses that Pastor Matt read this morning. Did you guys know Pastor Matt could sing? How cool is that? I'd picked those verses out and asked him to read them this morning, and then I was working on this sermon, and I realized, I actually picked the same 2 verses to go into the sermon, and I thought I was being really unique with the verses this morning. But the verses he read were, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned." And we talked about a couple of weeks ago how long God's people walked in darkness. 2,000 years passed between God's promise to Abraham that all nations would be blessed by his family and the birth of Jesus, which blessed all nations. 700 years passed between the prophecies in the book of Isaiah about Jesus and the birth of Jesus. 400 years passed between the last prophet in the Old Testament, and then God goes silent until the set time had fully come, and Jesus is born at the beginning of the New Testament. And during those years of waiting, those years overlap, the 2,000, the 700, the 400, those years overlap. During those years of waiting, many, many people lived and walked in darkness. They lived their whole lives, and the only thing that they really ever did was just carry the message that the Messiah is coming to the next generation for 2,000 years, for 700 years, for 400 years of silence. Generation after generation just saying, hey, something's coming, something's coming, something's coming. For unto us a child is born, a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. I love that the very last description of Jesus in Isaiah 9:6 is Prince of Peace, because maybe you're like me and you struggle to find peace in the time of waiting. I'm constantly questioning and doubting. Did I plant the seed too deep? Did I plant it too shallow? Have I given it enough water? Have I given it too much water? Did I plant it in the wrong place at the wrong time? Is it the wrong season? Should I dig it up and see if it's growing? I can always plant it again, right? That's not how plants work. They don't like that. None of this worrying affects the seed, but it affects me. And knowing this is how I'll react in times of waiting sometimes makes me want to take less risks, to play it more safe, because it's hard for me to find peace in the waiting. It feels safe, and I can move forward when I have all of the answers already. But we serve a God who is with us. He sent his Son to live among us. He was born just like all of us out of darkness, literally out of the darkness of Mary's womb, not because Mary's womb was evil, but because that's how wombs work. And maybe he was born like Jackson with bright eyes and wide eyes taking everything in, but I tend to think he was born like Bailey, with his tiny little eyes squeezed shut, savoring those last moments of comfort and rest and growth in the darkness of Mary's womb, savoring the last moments of mystery and peace before the world got bright and wild. And we know that he lived his whole life. He did lots of things. He died on the cross. He was resurrected, and then eventually he ascended into heaven. And it's not long after Jesus' ascension into heaven, the Apostle Paul is writing a letter to his other Jesus followers at Thessalonica. And he says, "Now the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times, in every way. The Lord be with all of you." Jesus' presence here on earth is what gives us peace. And when we stick close to him, we get a new definition of the word peace, not one that avoids the dark, but one that embraces it. Because when we stick close to Jesus, it doesn't matter how long things take, because we know he's going to show up when the set time fully comes, in the sleeping, in the growing, in the healing. He is with us in those times too. And I love that verse because our word of the year for 2025 is with. And we chose it actually because of a different verse that was about Peter and John. When they saw the courage of Peter and John, they realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men. Do we have some unschooled, ordinary men and women here? They were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. Peter and John, where they're at in the story, they've been arrested. Jesus has ascended into heaven. They've been arrested because they won't stop preaching and teaching what Jesus did, that he did all these miracles and that he died on the cross and that he rose again. And everyone in Jerusalem knew that Jesus was killed because most of them were there. And so the testimony of these two guys and their guys is so compelling that people are starting to believe. They're starting to leave their old ways of thinking and embrace this new way of thinking, this new way of living. And the number of Jesus followers is growing daily, and it's because they can tell that these people who are telling the stories have been with Jesus. And that's who we want to be as a church. We want to be people that other people can tell when they spend time with us that we've been with Jesus, when they see us go through something hard, when they see us go through something great, when they just hang out with us or have dinner with us or play games with us, when they're around us. They can tell that we have been with Jesus, that we are actively pursuing, that we are living the way Jesus lived, the way loving the way Jesus loved when it's hard and when it's easy. And that's what we get to do today on Give Light Sunday. Today we get to show that we've been with Jesus by giving through Tribe to Give Light. We get to give 1 minute of hope to some people in our town. And if you don't know what we do, we pay off people's electric bill, like people who are about to have their power turned off this week, the week of Christmas. We pay it off and it doesn't happen for them. Like they don't have their power turned off because we pay it off. And when we do that, we send a letter to them along with some information from the electric company that they need. And the letter conveys, I hope, that we have been with Jesus. This is what the letter says. It says, "We are Tribe Church, and we love you a lot. You were chosen to receive a gift through our Give Light Fund this Christmas season. A portion of your electric bill has been paid by donations made through Tribe. this holiday season. We want you to know that you are loved and you are seen. We hope that you have a safe, happy, healthy, warm Christmas and a happy New Year too. It is a simple letter. It's not a long letter. It's a very direct letter. But it is our hope that this letter, along with the gift, give these people who receive it 1 minute of hope. You are loved and you are seen. 1 minute of hope. Your disconnect notice is gone. It's paid for. It's done. Have a safe, happy, and warm Christmas. I think hope is what that brings. And I hope that this letter sounds like it was written by people who have been with Jesus. And I love how the word with is already popping up in other places. It's already sort of wrapping itself around us because that's what word of the years do. Sort of the brain science behind this is that you've heard that if you do something for 21 days, it'll become a habit. That's nonsense. It doesn't work. But if you do something 21 days in a row, and then you do that cycle 3 times, and then you complete that whole cycle 6 times, it will stick with you. It will become part of your life. It will be something that you'll do forever. And if you math that out, it's about a year. It's a word of the year. And our word of the year is with. We want to be people who are with Jesus because 2,000 years ago, on the very first Christmas, Jesus came to be with us. One of the names for him is Emmanuel, which literally means God with us. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, to the town of Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. Upon accepting the news that she'd been chosen to carry God's son, Mary goes to visit her relative Elizabeth. The angel Gabriel actually tells Mary that Elizabeth is pregnant, and that kind of helps convince her that it's possible for the impossible to happen when it comes to pregnancy. And Mary's first trimester, Elizabeth's last trimester, they kind of overlap, and they're able to spend that time together. When Elizabeth sees Mary for the first time, the infant John that she's carrying leaps in her womb. Elizabeth and John both know that they are in the presence of the Lord, and Elizabeth speaks these words over Mary. But why am I so favored that the mother of my Lord should come to me? And to the best of my knowledge, these are the very first recorded words that were said about Jesus when Jesus was in the room, even if he was in the womb. Why am I so favored that my Lord would come to me? And the answer to that is really simple. Because we serve a God who is with us. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times and in every way. The Lord be with all of you. I heard a pastor say one time that the presence of God allows his children to breathe. And I think the thing that lets us breathe is the peace. The peace in his presence that we feel in his presence is what allows us to breathe. It's that 1 minute of hope that makes the difference. 1 minute where you can acknowledge there's something bigger out there than you, someone bigger out there than you, someone who's had a plan all along. A lot of you know that Tribe Church is part of the Aspire network of churches, and we have some really close friends in the Aspire network their church is called 419. It's Patrick and Stacey Moore. Patrick's preached here. Matt and I preached at their church last summer. We love them a lot, and they have been through it this year. They've had a hard year, and they were actually chosen for a grant this week. It was very unexpected that they were awarded this, and so this was the letter that 419 wrote in honor of their grant. Thank you so much for recommending us for this grant. These last few weeks have been an emotional roller coaster. We've continued to see new families come through the doors of 419. Returning families claim 419 as their home church, and regular attendees take the next steps in their relationship with Jesus. We have, however, also had some tough conversations with people who have come to realize that they don't align with the mission and vision of 419. And being a church that even unchurched people love to attend, and what exactly that looks like. And they've walked away. Some of the goodbyes have been on good terms, while others have led us feeling frustrated, confused, hurt, and even sorrowful. Along with those departures comes the realization that some of the people who've left have been considerable financial contributors to 419. The timing of this call and your hand in making it happen leaves us in awe yet again of what a mighty God we serve. We are humbled and filled with gratitude to be part of his kingdom work here on earth. Thank you for believing in 419 Church and supporting what we are doing in Moyock, North Carolina. This unexpected gift, this grant has infused light into this church, into those pastors. And honestly, it wasn't that big of a grant. I did the math. There's a lot of math in this sermon, guys. I did the math. And while I'm not totally sure what their budget is for the years, the grant they received probably represents about 1% of their budget for the year. But isn't it remarkable what 1%, what 1 minute of hope can do? And before you're like, that's what I need too. I need a miracle. I'm ready. I've been steadfast and steady. Like, I need you to bless me like you blessed everybody else. Like, I see you bless other people all the time. Bless me this Christmas. I get it. I feel it. I feel that it's been a hard year for a lot of people. I see it on your faces. The pastoral staff here at Tribe, we feel it when you're in the room. We know that this has been a heavy year for a lot of people. For a lot of people, it's been a year of hard choices, of decisions that you wish that you didn't have to make, of things that broke your heart. We've seen more people lose loved ones, close loved ones than ever before. We've watched our people go through hard things in their marriages with their kids. We've watched people lose jobs, lose their hope. And I wish I could make it all go away. But the only thing that I can do is point you to the one who can give you peace, who can give you so much more than 1 minute of hope. And that's what Give Light is. It's our opportunity to be that light, that peace, that hope to other people in the simplest way possible. My dad is a very smart man, and he told us when we were young people that if it's a problem that can be solved with money, it's not a problem. And I didn't really understand that until I had a problem that I couldn't solve with money. And then I understood. Everything else is not a problem, it's an expense. If it's a problem that can't be solved with money, that's a real problem. The death of a loved one, cancer, infertility, your new boss being a real piece of work, like these are problems, okay? I need an extra $200 to pay, or they're gonna disconnect my electricity. That's an expense. And back in 2019, we did several things. We paid off, at Christmas time, we paid off some lunch accounts, we sponsored some families, and we paid a handful of electric bills. And then in 2020, we decided to put all of our eggs into one basket and call that basket Give Light. And that's where the Give Light campaign was born. The founding team decided that they wanted a couple of specific things when it came to this. The first was that it wouldn't just be for kids. Kids are great, we love kids. But kids get a lot of attention at Christmas, and the reality is that everyone needs Christmas. Everyone. So while we love kids, we wanted this to be something that benefited whole families, not just children. And the second thing was this help wouldn't be vetted. Vetting that means like checking to make sure, okay? Vetting is an important part of helping people. Nonprofits and organizations need to vet people to make sure that the people that they're helping are actually being helped, because sometimes when we're trying to help, we actually end up doing more harm than good. But for this project, we didn't want people to be vetted. We wanted to cover people, to solve a problem, to take something that might seem insurmountable then, and to keep them from having to start off the new year behind. To give them just 1 minute of hope by giving them just a little bit of light. So in 2019, again, we helped 8 families keep their lights on at Christmas. Really small congregation, really small amount of giving, took a problem and made it go away. Paid it in full. In 2020, the first time that the only thing we did was give light at Christmas, we paid the electric bill for 31 people. In 2021, 70 people would have had their electricity turned off the week of Christmas, but God showed up through our church and paid off that. In 2022, we paid off every electric bill in the town of Plainfield, every single one. And in 2023, we paid all or part of 91 electric bills, which represented all of Plainfield and some others that were just throughout Hendricks County. There is a group of people out there right now who have a problem that can be solved with money. And to them, it might seem insurmountable, it might seem impossible, it might seem crippling, but to you, it might be what you spend on a nice dinner or 1% of your Christmas bonus. There's a group of people out there right now that we can give 1 minute of hope to, that we can give 1 minute of light to. There's a group of people out there that are going to breathe a little easier this Christmas, that are going to sleep a little bit warmer because of what you did today. And the reality is, we're going to do this no matter what. We're going to keep people from having their electricity turned off. We just don't know to what level yet. We don't know how many we're going to get to help. That lies in your hands today. We've held hands open every year with Give Light, every year. Every dollar that comes in today goes out. It's like the worst financial decision we make of the year. We actually do it twice. Our accountants are always like, you would do so much better if you would just stop giving money away. We know, but 91 people last year slept warm on Christmas Day because of us. That's worth so much more than everything else. We don't know what's going to happen this year. We're going to hold open hands just like we do every year. It all comes down to you and how God shows up through you. And the reality is that we want you to be a part of this. We want you to be a part of this. And because it's an honor to serve our community in this way. It's not cool, it's not sexy, no one writes about it in the Plainfield magazine. If it gets mentioned on Facebook, it gets buried in 2 seconds. We don't usually get thank you notes from the people that we help, but that's not why we do it. We do it because he first loved us, because love people. We do it because he gave his life for us, and so I hope you'll give this year. Even if all you can give doesn't feel like enough to make a difference. Because when we announce, and we will announce how many people we were able to help this year, how many families we've literally given light to this year, I want you to know that you were a part of it. I want you to have that feeling of hope because it is so much bigger than 1 minute of hope when you know that you've helped other people. We say every week that we don't want something from you, we want something for you, and that goes quadruply this week. This week, you have the opportunity to be part of a group of people that are going to give 1 minute of hope to people they've never met, to people they may never meet, but who Jesus loves, and who Jesus shows his love through your simple gift of love and hope and money and light.